How's it going, everybody? Today I will show you that Hwei, as insanely complicated as he looks, is not too hard if you understand his simple concept about his three abilities. Now, this concept turns Hwei into a great pickup for mid lane, as he's pretty strong right now in my opinion, and once you learn his abilities and his basic trading patterns, he can become very, very strong. His skill ceiling is very, very high because he has so many abilities. So, I will teach this basic concept really, really fast, and it makes Hwei really, really easy. So, Hwei has three abilities. He has his Q, his W, and his E. Anytime you press one of these keys, it will bring up a menu, again, at the bottom of your screen, with three different abilities. So, his Q will have three abilities, W has three abilities, and his E has three abilities. So, let's start with his Q. Hwei's Q is his damaging abilities. So he has three of them. Right? All of these will do a lot of damage. His W are utility-oriented spells. So, any of these three will be very utility-oriented. His E are CC. So, anything you use in his E page are going to do some sort of crowd control in some way. Now, let's go over all of Hwei's abilities in very simple terms. I will go very short, very simple, so it doesn't seem too overcomplicated. So, let's press Q. Now, we have three options. We have our QQ, which is pretty much just a fireball. That's all it does. It just shoots a straight fireball. Draw on those really fast. It shoots a straight fireball. That's it. That's all it does. And then it explodes at the end and does a little bit of AoE damage. That's all it does. It's very, very simple. That's it. It's just a straight line, skill shot, fireball. His QW is, as you can see, we have a pretty big range here. Now, we can put this anywhere down, and it will pretty much spawn a firebolt out of the sky and do damage to anyone inside this circle. Just like that. Bang. It will literally go anywhere. This is very good at stopping bases, because you can stand like right here and reach to their tower. So you can stop backs. It's a very, very strong ability. Now, Hwei's QE is lava. You put it on the floor, it'll do initial explosion damage as it's exploding on the ground like that, and it'll do burn damage over time. Which is very, very, very good ability for wave clear, very, very good ability for team fighting. So, fireball, we have our fire lightning bolt thing, and our lava. Not too hard. So, just remember, if you press Q, any of these abilities will do damage. So you're good. Now, let's move on to his W. His W are his utility-oriented spells. So anytime you press W, you know you're going to be using something for utility. His WQ just puts like this rectangular pool on the floor that gives you and all of your teammates movement speed. Right? So anywhere direction, you see I get a little bit of movement speed, and this gets very, very good. This gets up to 30%. So it's very, very good at chasing someone down to be able to kill them. You can even speed up your teammates. Get them to go a little bit faster if you're trying to catch up to someone. It's a very, very strong ability. Hwei's WW just puts a circle in anywhere in this range, and it just shields. I think see it gave me a little shield right here. So that's all it does. Just gives a little shield in this circle for a little bit. So it's very, very good at team fighting. You know, you can put this on your front line, give them a little bit of an extra shield. And the shield's actually pretty good. It gives 200 base shield with a 30% AP ratio, so you can actually get a lot of shields in the end game. So it's very, very good. It's also an AoE shield too, so you can technically you can give your whole team a shield. Now, Hwei's WE empowers his next three auto attacks. So what I'll do is I'll spawn a dummy here. I'll spawn a couple of them actually. So we got two dummies here. Hwei's WE will empower his next three abilities or auto attacks. So as you can see, if I auto attack once, it'll consume one of the three little orbs that are circling me. If I auto attack again, it'll consume all of them. Right? Again. Consume, consume, consume. Now, these can also empower your abilities. So if I shoot my fireball, as you can see, it consumed one of the little orbs that's circling me. Now, these will do bonus magic damage, so your auto attacks will do more. As you can see, this one did 98. They do 98 damage each, and then normal auto attack just does 72. So you can get extra damage from your auto attacks with the WE, and your abilities will also do more damage. And these will restore mana. So every time you auto attack, it'll restore a little bit of mana each time. So it'll restore 45 mana each, and then when you get to level 5, it'll restore 110 mana each, which is very good in laning phase because you can pretty much be there in lane and not run out of mana. Because you can always regenerate. You can just auto minions, you can auto the champion, and you can get your mana back, which allows you to spam more of your spells. Now, Hwei's E. Hwei's E is the most complicated part out of his kit, in my opinion, but it's his CC-oriented abilities. So, Hwei's EQ is very simple. It's just a straight line fear. First target it hits, it'll fear. So if I stand here, it'll just fear the first target. That's it. Very simple. Hwei's EW will put a circle on the ground that'll root someone if they stand in it for long enough. Just like that. Right? It'll just root the closest person to the eye, and that's all it does. But it does take a little bit of time to boot up, as you can see. It doesn't instantly root. It takes a couple seconds, so it can be a very good ability if you can land it. But it's decently hard to land, especially in laning phase, but it can set you up for a lot of good combos because on a rated target, obviously, it's super easy to hit all of your abilities. Now, Hwei's EE is his most complicated ability, in my opinion. It's a mouth that pretty much closes in on this center circle. Right? So, it will actually airborne for a small amount of time any champion that gets pulled by your E. So, as you can see, they're getting pulled. They get moved. So, this is a very good ability to guarantee land your other abilities. So, it's very, very nice to be able to pull someone in. You can also pull multiple people at once with your EE ability. So if I have both of these guys in my EE, I can press it, and as you can see, it'll pull both of them into the center, which is very, very good because it's very, very easy to land all of your other abilities. So this is a very strong ability, especially in lanes. You can cast it through minions, which a lot of Hwei's abilities you can't. So you're going to be using this a lot, especially in laning phase, and it pretty much guarantees you hit your R. So Hwei's R is just a point and click skill shot. You just press it, it'll hit someone, slowly expand, and do a bunch of explosion damage at the end. It'll also do damage over time to anyone standing inside the circle, just like that. And then it'll explode and do a bunch of damage. So, it's a very, very simple ability, very good for team fights, and the damage over time is very, very nice. So you want to try to be able to hit someone with it, and then they walk into their whole team, and it does just a bunch of damage, and you can pretty much win the team fight with this one ability. It's such a strong ability. Those are Hwei's basic abilities. So as you remember, Q is damage, W is utility, and our E is our crowd control abilities. Alright, let's move on to Hwei's passive. Now, Hwei's passive, in my opinion, is very, very broken. So, if we read it here, Hwei's damaging abilities against enemies mark them for 4 seconds. So as you can see, if I throw a fireball at these guys, you see how they have a little circle, a little yellow circle on the bottom of them? That's the mark. That's the passive mark. So now, if you hit an enemy that's marked with a second damaging ability, it creates an explosion underneath them, dealing magic damage to all enemies in the range. So, what that means is, if you have someone that you mark, and you hit them with another damaging ability, for example, my fear, so it'll create this pool on the ground that'll explode. So that is pretty much Hwei's trading pattern. You want to proc your passive. That's pretty much the whole thing. So there's some combos that make it really easy to do, right? One of Hwei's bread and butter combos is EE into QQ, right? So you want to pull them in to guarantee land your fireball. Because your fireball is a skill shot, so if you just throw it preemptively as you're pulling someone in, you'll hit them 100% of the time. Now, you can't do this through minions. So, what some people like to do is they like to use the EE to pull them into a center spot, and then they use the QW. Because Hwei's QW does more damage to people that are CC'd. So if you EE and then QW, you'll proc your passive, and you'll mostly guarantee the hit on your QW. Pretty hard ability to hit, but when you use your EE, you can pretty much hit it most of the time. And they'll do a lot of damage. It's a very good trading if there's a bunch of minions through you and the other champion. So Hwei's WE, which is the one that empowers your auto attacks, actually procs your passive. So it's a very good tool in lane because you can like put your WE on, auto someone, and then Q them, and it'll proc your passive just like that. Or you can WE and then fear someone, and it'll proc your passive. So it's very, very good, as you can proc your passive just with your auto attacks. You can't just auto attack to proc your passive, you have to use a second ability. And also, your R will also proc your passive. So if I press R after I Q, you see how it exploded first, and now it's doing my alt explosion? So your R will actually proc your passive as well. So if you see someone that's like that, you can R them to proc your passive and to get the R damage on them. Now, another good combo on Hwei is you root and then you press QW, because you can see they'll do more damage, and then the passive proc just does insane damage. Hwei's wave clear, you can either put a QE on the wave, which does this damage over time ability, or you can just EEQQ the wave, and it'll pretty much kill them all. After level like 3 Q, you can do 2 Qs for the backline minions.
Good.
Another good combo I like on Hwei is if you fear someone as you're running away, you can place a pool on the way back. So let's say I was getting chased through the jungle here. I can fear and then QE, and I can create spacing with my fear and also do damage on the way out, which is very, very nice. You can also pair your ultimate with your R, because your ultimate goes through minions, so you can pretty much ult through an entire minion wave and it won't affect it. So I like to only ult when I have guaranteed CC. So if I hit my root, if a teammate hits any sort of CC, or if I hit my EE, you can also R and R into that, because it pretty much guarantees the R lane. This is the easiest way to do it, because you can just EE and R, and it guarantees that you hit your R. So those are Hwei's pretty simple combos. So all you have to remember is EE is very good for landing skill shots, because it moves them into the center, so you can pretty much hit your skill shots 100% of the time. And just remember that your WE empowers your auto attack, so you can proc your passive off of it. So you only need technically an auto and another ability to proc your passive off of it. So yeah, those are Hwei's combos, and now we will move on to items. Okay, so on to Hwei's build. Hwei's build always starts with a Blackfire Torch Rush, because this item is super, super good on Hwei, because you get the burn, you get the AP, you get the ability haste, you get your mana. It's a very, very good all-around item to build on Hwei, as burn on Hwei synergizes super, super well with this kit. So you're always going to want to go, you're 99% of the games, you go Blackfire Torch first. You're going to want to build Sork Shoes in pretty much all your games. It can be good to go Lucidity Boots for the ability haste, but I think the Magic Penetration is just way, way better just to build Sork Shoes all of the time. Your next item is going to be Leandries, as you want as much burn pretty much as possible. So you're going to go Leandries, and then anything after that, you can either go Rabadons, you can go Zhonya's, you can go Shadow Flame. Any of these items are great on Hwei, right? You can go Magi even too if you have Dark Seal. But in matchups that you're going to go against tankier targets, what I like to do is, if we head back to base here, if I'm against, for example, a Galio that's building magic resist against me, I like to build a Sapphire Crystal, because it's nice to have the extra mana on Hwei, especially in the early game, and then I'll just rush Leandries. So with rushing Leandries, you're actually able to kill Galio at all points during the laning phase. So you can just rush. I like to go Faded Ashes first, and then go my Haunting guys, because I think Faded Ashes gets so much value on Hwei. So you can go Faded Ashes, and you can take another 1300 base, get your Haunting guys, and then you can grab your Leandries. So any tanky target, rush Leandries first item. You can build a Sapphire Crystal, but if you're not having mana issues, there's no need to buy this. You can just leave it and save the gold for your item. But most of the time, you're going to go Blackfire Torch. And so your core build, Blackfire Torch, Sorcerer's Shoes, Leandries. Very, very good build. Does a lot of damage. It's a very big power spike on Hwei when you get your 2 burn items. right? You can, and then you go Shadow Flame, you can go Zanya's, Rabadon's, Magi's. I've also seen some people run Rylai's. It's a possible because the slowness coming from Rylai is actually pretty good on Hwei, especially when you're using the lava on the ground, as it slows them, so it'll just do more and more damage because they can't walk out of it fast enough. You can go Banshees, you can go Void Staff if they have a lot of like MR, if they have very tanky targets, you can hit up a Void Staff. I've seen Cosmic Drive as well for some more ability haste. But mainly, for most of your games, you're going to go probably Rabadon's, Shadow Flame, Zanya's, Void Staff, Leandry's, Blackfire Torch, and then Sorcerer's Shoes. That's going to be a very standard stock build for Hwei. Alright, so moving on to Hwei runes. Hwei's runes is very, very simple, as you pretty much run the exact same thing every single game. You're going to take Arcane Comet as your very, very poke-heavy champion, so you're going to be able to proc this a lot of the times during laning phase. You can also opt to take Airy if you're going to be auto-attacking a little bit more, but 99% of the time, take Comet is very, very strong in lane, and you're a very poke-heavy champion, so you work very well with Comet. You're going to take Mana Flow Band because the extra mana on Hwei is very, very nice, especially in the early game, as you do have a little bit of mana issues sometimes. Transcendence because ability haste is very good on Hwei, as his Q and E on low CDs are very, very broken. Scorch as burn on Hwei is good, and it synergizes well with his items that he builds in game. For secondary rune page, you're going to take haste because, again, Q and E on low CD is very, very broken on Hwei, so you just want as much ability haste pretty much as possible. You're going to take cut down because sometimes when you're against some more tankier mid laners, for example Galio or someone that runs Doran's Shield as a starter item, you want to be able to do some damage still, and you can still actually have some kill threat taking this rune in lane phase, so it's a very, very good rune. You're going to want to take the attack speed for minion last hitting, adaptive force just for some extra AP, and then you're going to want to take health scaling or flat HP depending on your matchup. So if you're against more of an assassin, take flat HP, and then if you're against a scaling champ, just take your scaling HP. So that is Hwei's rune page that you will use in 99% of your games. In the other 1%, you are going to use First Strike. It's going to look something like this. So you're going to use First Strike as your keystone to do some extra 7% extra damage. You're going to go Free Boots, Cookies, Flash CD, and then you're going to go Mana Flow, Gathering Storm as your secondary, and you're going to go the same sort of setup here. You're going to go Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and then scale your 5 speed depending on your matchup. Now, this is a very one-shot build, so you only really want to pick this if their entire comp has 5 squishies. Hwei's damage with his burn build is still very, very good, but you only want to take this if you have 5 squishy champs on the other team, because in my opinion, Hwei does way better as his burn build than his First Strike build, where you just build Ludens and like full AP. It's not great, but it can be very, very good if they do have 5 squishy champs. So that are the 2 rune pages that you're going to use on Hwei, but 99% of the time, most of your games, you might have one game every month where you're going to use that other page, but this is the rune page you're going to use most of the time. Alrighty, so that is why Hwei isn't too much of a difficult champion. If you guys have any questions about Hwei's abilities or need some help with itemization, runes, anything, be sure to put it down in the comments. I can help you out. Hwei is not too hard of a champion. Once you learn his abilities and how to combo with his abilities properly, he becomes a super strong champ with a very, very high skill ceiling. So he's a very, very strong pickup, as he's very, very poke heavy. He's great at team fighting. So, yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Appreciate if you could like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.